Rob D'Amico is here. He was a member of the FBI's hostage rescue team on 9/11, also an FBI special agent. Is this the smoking gun?
I don't know about smoking. It is definitely a gun that has some smoke coming out of it. It's one of those things that they're going to keep denying, that, oh, they're saying is a tourist video. But if you look at the actual words in the video that he's talking about, and he talks about a plan and what he's filming, it's not a tourist video. But a lot of intel officers do filming like that. They did try to make it look like an everyday occurrence. But when you start adding things from the case to the video, then the yellow flags start coming up. His allegiance with two of the hijackers. When he got caught with it, he had a whole bunch of numbers. It was months before the decision was made to where they're going to attack. And I think if you look at it that way, he may not have known the original plan when he was shooting that video. Because when he talks about the plan in the video, he talks about the cars. So if you're thinking about crashing an aircraft into the Capitol, why would cars be in there? But I don't know if they knew the exact plan or if he knew the exact plan that far in advance, if it was only known back in Afghanistan. So I think there's some things that look at it, and it's a civil trial. It's not a criminal. In criminal, I don't think you could prove it. In a civil trial, when it's just a preponderance of the evidence, I think they have a chance to really connect them.
And what you're talking about is the civil trial of the 9/11 victims' families going after the Saudis here. And there's a lot in your answer to break down. I think perhaps he may not even known the plan himself, because that's how operational security works. You don't tell everybody everything. You certainly don't tell a guy who has the potential to be arrested everything, and you may even give him, say, disinformation, to borrow a word that often happens. Key detail from the 28 pages. These are the 28 pages redacted from the 9/11 Commission report. Prior to September 11th, the FBI apparently did not focus investigative resources on redacted Saudi nationals in the United States due to Saudi Arabia's status as an American ally. But Saudi's more than an American ally, right? There's an enormous amount of money that Riyadh has spent gaining friends in the United States in very important places in both parties. Therefore, do we conclude, because now 23 years later, this still is redacted, that somebody or some buddies is protecting the Saudis?
It's such a tough question. Like, I can't imagine who would be protecting the Saudis at this point. During 9/11, I worked at the Pentagon as a reservist, and I was actually in the FBI. I wasn't supposed to be doing reserve duty, but I was. So I had access to a whole bunch of information. And I think part of the time during that happened, it's like telling you your friend is involved in something you don't want him to be. And I think that's the way a lot of the people in the administration looked at it, when maybe some of this intelligence came up and they had very friendly relations with Saudi Arabia. Oh, no, they couldn't be involved. There's no way they would do that. And then I also think when they maybe got some more intelligence on it, that it was like, wow, that would complicate our response to this. One, on just the politics and conducting the war against terror, but also oil and everything else that it would do, that if the intelligence burden started getting higher, then you really start looking at, were they just kind of like shutting their eyes to, like, hey, I don't even want to hear that. And I point to how they linked Iraq to 9/11, which anyone in the intelligence community knew. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. The Al-Qaeda hated
Yeah, that's
Saddam.
been well documented. I want to play a soundbite real quick from Terry Strada. She's the chair of 9/11 Families United, which is part of the group suing the Saudis. Take a listen.
It's really sad, and it's really painful to watch that video and to see Omar al-Bayoumi so proudly casing the U.S. Capitol. It was very creepy to watch. And it just brings back a lot of sadness, but a lot of anger, too. So much anger that this type of evidence has been buried for so long.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.